So it is obvious at this point that the Walt Disney Company is in complete freefall mode over Snow White 2025. We all know that Rachel Zegler really backtracked on many of the comments that she made well over a year and a half ago about the Snow White 1937 original, the prince, the love story being absent from the upcoming movie. We know that there's a lot of reshoots looming as well, and a lot of changes will be applied. But we also know at the same exact time, they are basically on damage control mode and are reshaping and shifting away from the source material of the original 1937 Snow White tale, as well as the Brothers Grimm version. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, quick thing, we know that the new backstory of Snow White and the true meaning of her name in this movie, the most ridiculous thing of all is the fact that you have somebody like Snow White that is called that now because she survived a snowstorm, and that's why her parents called her that. Yes, that was fully confirmed by Rachel Zegler. However, you have Disney supporters out there, those associated with Disney, those that work for Disney, that are supporting Rachel Zegler to the full capacity and really are defending the Snow White film at all costs. And one of which has a lot to do with Whoopi Goldberg of The View, which by the way is on ABC. And what is ABC? ABC is run by Disney. Disney owns that network. So it's not a big shocker there. But this is where things begin to spiral out of control and really get very interesting about how these people are really going out of their way to defend this movie, now, like no tomorrow basically, to really make this movie happen at all costs. Let's jump into this, shall we? Now, with the marketing campaign for Snow White 2025 already a major disaster as reshoots loom for the film, those associated with Disney are defending Rachel Zegler's attack on fans and the general public, such as Whoopi Goldberg, as she began to defend both the film and the actress. Goldberg delivered the following: "Quite frankly, I think this world is sick to even shout out an opinion that they have a problem with the appearance of Snow White and how her backstory is altered to fit the modern tale. It's offensive to witness all these fans opposed to seeing a movie that promotes diversity and the magical essence of that coming from Disney to reach others around the world to become a part of movies like this. There is absolutely nothing wrong with diversity, equity, and inclusion as Disney supports this, and will continue to do so with their Snow White feature film. The comments made about Rachel have been the most ridiculous things I have ever seen, and the fans of Snow White. To the fans that grew up with the original, that have an issue with Rachel playing the role, I don't think you have a place in seeing any movies at all, not by Disney and not by any studio that promotes diversity. Too many people get confused that this is some form of an agenda or messaging, yada yada yada. It's the most absurd thing I have ever heard in my life, and the things, like what Rachel has to put up with, only makes her the stronger woman in this story, separate from her film. The backlash over this film is just from a small number of loud families that are opposed to people of color starring in these popular roles, such as Snow White, and it's the #1 issue that we have in this world. You see, this is why the world is so divided, since a big deal is made out of nothing. You see, many false narratives are blowing around that Disney is about engaging in this so-called culture war on the public, or that they are using messaging to fit their agenda. I don't see that one bit. I just don't. I would like one person to prove me where Snow White promotes any kind of an agenda based on what they saw alone in their trailer. Look, as a comedian and as an actress, and now talk show host, I have dealt with this all my life, and my heart goes out to Rachel, but I also have been rooting for her, taking shots back at the public for those that have issues with this film before it even released. So guys, let me just stop here quick for one moment. Now, look, I think it's safe to say that we can never, ever take anybody's opinion from The View seriously at all. It is by far one of the worst networks out there in history, and yes, I will say that, and I'm still shocked to this day that it's still on air, that it's still over at ABC. Who's watching The View? I would like anybody to really kind of put that up front, but we know at the same exact time, look, there's going to be a lot of Disney supporters, those that are employed over at Disney, people like Whoopi Goldberg, Jimmy Kimmel, the hosts over at Good Morning America, Kelly and Mark. They're all going to really defend this movie to no end, like no tomorrow, because they either have to or they truly believe in what they're saying. It's either or. Now, at the same exact time, We know that this movie is not going well. No matter what Rachel Zegler says, it only makes things worse. We all saw what happened just the other day with Variety and what she had to say about Snow White. Like I said earlier in this video, she did confirm that the meaning of the name Snow White is because she survived a snowstorm. Let that sink in for a moment. That is so much of a slap in the face by Disney to shifting away from the source material, and we all know why they had to go that route, to change the backstory of Snow White, let's be honest. But focusing on Whoopi Goldberg again, alright, she goes on to conclude, this is where things begin to pick up a little bit more, to the critics and haters that shout out into the void and make the most ridiculous comments that mean nothing. Snow White is a fairy tale, and it's open to anybody and anyone to play the role. And yes, I mean anybody. It's quite funny just watching how so many have an issue with a film that promotes diversity, that is all about kindness and showing strength. What the critics are showing is weakness and ignorance, and it's awful. Just awful for what Rachel has to deal with. But she is a tough warrior who stands up to this nonsense, and I'm all here for it. I give her my full support for standing up for what's right. So, look, I think at the end of the day, based on what Rachel Zegler said just a couple of days ago, and also what she said back in 23 and 22, this is all her doing. All of the backlash really is because of Rachel Zegler. Look, The Little Mermaid, you can be a critic about that movie all you want, but it definitely was not as universally rejected as Snow White is currently, because the actress that played The Little Mermaid wasn't really all that insufferable, making these crazy, outrageous comments about the general public, about the fans, about the overall history of Snow White, stuff like that. When you act like this, such as Rachel Zegler, and what she has done before many times throughout all of this year, 2023 and 22, that's exactly when things begin to go out of control. So you're going to have those like Joy Behar, you're going to have those like Whoopi Goldberg, Jimmy Kimmel, and among others that are going to stand by her side no matter what, because let's face it, I mean, they are Disney hires, that's true. But at the same exact time, these are people that I obviously believe in exactly everything that Disney's putting out there. Everything that Bob Iger is doubling down on, there's no doubt about that. And that's exactly why I think 2025 is going to be a disastrous beginning, at the very least. A disastrous beginning of a year for the Walt Disney Company. It's going to take a lot of successful projects to really recover from Snow White if it's going to be that big of a box office failure. If it's going to be that rejected and it's going to make that much little money out there in theaters, I think at the same exact time they need to make a decision now if they really want to kind of save whatever image they have left, cancel this thing outright, or put it on Disney Plus and call it a day and wipe off your hands. That's it. So overall, I think Bob Iger really is just very egotistical at this point. He's trying to create a legacy before stepping down in 2026. But I would like to hear what everyone has to say about Whoopi and Rachel and everything surrounding Snow White. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.